listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, Jon Cross.
Old man noises. We make old man noises. Have you got... Is that an umbrella bag?
Yeah.
That's quite natty.
Yeah, it is.
I initially was going to take the mickey out of your umbrella bag, and I thought that's very useful.
It's very useful, isn't it? If you come over here, we can kind of form a nice
A sound barrier.
triangle of sound.
There we go.
Well, look at that. Thank you so much. A dining tradition reborn.
Were we here when it... We've been here since it was born again.
Are we... Is this a born-again diner?
Yeah. They'll only serve you if you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord.
Well,
Which I do.
Well, you know me.
Because if there's going to be a Lord and I had to
Yeah.
choose, I'd probably go with Jesus.
Would you?
Yeah.
If there was a Lord.
I'm just saying, if they go, look, you got to accept a Lord,
Right.
No Lord's not an option.
You have to accept gay lords.
No. Well, yeah. Yeah,
Right.
that is. Yeah. You do. But if I was going to accept a Lord, I would accept Jesus.
I tell you what, right now.
You would too. He's got a beard.
I know, and
Right.
he's into
Seems
liking people.
nice.
Seems nice, but
Yeah.
I tell you something. I accept all people, so therefore by process.
Accepting Jesus, you accept it. But do you accept all people as the Lord?
No, I just accept them.
Like as a Lord?
No,
Of
just
their own
as a
lordiness.
person. Yeah.
Lordliness.
Well, yeah, maybe I accept you as your own lord of your blue sweater or something.
Yeah. Lord of the blue sweater. Lord of this blue sweater.
It's a very nice sweater actually, and I like the combination with the stripy shirt.
Thank you very much, mate. Well,
I don't know
thought-
why we started this episode being nice to each other. How boring that is.
It's because of the movie, that's why.
Right.
Because the movie was so incredibly nice. We walked out feeling nice.
It was kind of nice.
It was nice. It
It
was
was
relentlessly positive and nice.
It was touching.
Yeah. It was... Wait, this is where... This
Yeah.
is where we came. Because I
Yeah.
re-listened to the Belko
Yeah.
experiment because
Yeah.
of reasons, right?
Yeah.
And in the Belko experiment, I order a burger.
Yeah.
And it's like a chili burger or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah, I
I'm
listened to it
immensely
as well.
disappointed. This is the burger.
Yeah.
This is it.
But no,
Because I nearly ordered the burger again.
no, but during the episode, you actually say it's actually kind of nice, and I go, yeah, mine is.
Oh, I
as
didn't
well.
get that far. All right. Well, I'll have something else.
So
I'm not
far,
gonna
by
do
the
that
way,
again.
you've flapped your menu back, you've banged on the table, you've pointed.
You're
at
like
the table.
very down on my Foley skills.
Oh, is
I
that what it
feel
is?
like-
Oh, you're trying to add to the ambience.
Yeah.
Whereas when I listen to it, I'm going to go. Ugh.
Yeah, I know it sounds like I'm a clumsy idiot who doesn't pay any attention to the things that are happening around him.
No, but you are.
But really...
No, but you are. No, but you are.
Are you sure?
No, but you are.
Are you sure?
Essentially, this podcast is a bit like the movie we just went to see.
Is it?
But
Is
as
it,
if, no, but it is.
But much less successful.
Well, that's true. But it's like the movie we just went to see.
I'm sorry, yes.
As if those two women were middle-class boys who never grew up.
Yeah, which is what we are.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
How much do you think that's a product of our generation? How much do you think that's a product of us? I mean, the fact that I'm 40 and I read comics, for example. And I remember my dad trying to get me off reading comics. But I was like 12. He was like, look, I bought you the... Remember like, there was a bit where there was like, the Times for Children or whatever. They did that thing. He was like, look, have a copy of the indie.
They did do the Times for Children.
They did, and they did the Independent. They called it the Indie. You go, look, it's a funky fucking cartoon eagle
Oh
on the
my
front.
God, no, wait, they did do broadsheets for children.
Yes,
My God, that's
yes,
when
they
we...
did. Yes.
I had one of those.
Yes, and my dad kept trying to take Whizzer and Chips away from me.
Yeah.
And Captain America. And
They
put-
tried to
and
take the
put
Beano
Indie.
out of my hand.
Right.
They were like, enough with the Bash Street Kids. They're just
You know,
silly.
if they just left us alone, we might have grown out of it. But here I am,
Right.
getting excited about Batman comics when I'm fucking 40. Actually, I'm not that big a fan of Batman, but other comics.
But do you think if you'd had children, and your
I'd be
child
too
was
tired.
like, would
Yeah.
no. Do you think if you had children
Yeah.
and your children like weren't taking to comics, you would swat, I don't know, the Encyclopedia Britannica out of their hand and be like, read Whizzer and Chips.
Well, probably depends how like.
Read the dandy. He's got a big chin and eats things called cow pies. It's hilarious stuff.
If they were like unhappy, I mean, if knowledge made them unhappy, I might think about it. I'm like, you don't need to know everything. Most of it's terrible.
If knowledge
but
made
spoiler, Encyclopedia Britannica. Spoiler, it's mostly bad news.
It's mostly bad news.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I know we're all like, oh, the wonder of it all, but really, we're all insignificant. We're all going to die.
They claim
this is
their
all a horrible mistake.
They claim their bacon cheeseburger is famous.
I'm willing to put that to the test,
Are
maybe.
you still banging on the table?
Yes, I told you I have terrible photos.
Oh my God, you're awful.
We are not quite yet.
He's
I'm
not
not.
ready yet.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes,
one
just
more
one.
minute would be great.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, I'm going
I
to...
like her hat and tie combo.
Yeah, well, it's reborn, mate, isn't it? Popeye
Is that what
salad.
it is?
Oh,
Is that how they
spinach.
is that how they rebirthed the diner?
Yeah.
They were like everyone has to wear a okay. I'll tell you what, if you're
It is
looking to
nice.
reinvent, it is nice. It is lovely. But I feel like it's the same that it's always been.
I don't know if I want burger, though.
Apparently, our erstwhile president has new plans to redesign.
Don't. Let's
Air
not.
Force One.
Let's not, because that's like an That's an encyclopedia of bad news just on its own. So
What?
it's just,
Him redoing?
No, just the life we're living, the age in which we are living.
Yeah.
Which I can't help but feeling
Yeah.
that we are partially responsible for.
How-
It's
okay,
like it's a
excuse me one
joke and a
second.
nightmare.
How are we?
I don't
responsible
know.
for it?
I don't know. I'm just saying,
I think-
we're standing by a burning pile of shit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And God's walked in,
Yeah.
and we're stood next to it going, nothing to do with us.
No,
He's
but-
like, but is it?
No,
Is
no.
it to do
It's
with
not
you?
to do
Because
with
you're standing next to the burning
right.
pile of shit. Of all of history,
Yeah.
you're standing next to the burning pile of shit.
right.
How is
Well,
it
I'm
not
not.
at least partially?
I'm not.
Or we are. We're here. We're standing in the middle. of it.
No.
We're not even next to it. We are standing in.
I'm
the
standing.
burning pile
I'm
of shit.
standing next.
How is it not our fault?
Can you let me finish?
Yeah, all right.
I think the same people who whacked Whizzer and Chips out of our hands and forced us to read the Baby Times, or whatever the fuck it was called, they are the people responsible.
That's
and
true.
Them, and I'll tell you what else. I'll go one further.
All right.
Medical science, and let me explain.
Oh, okay. You're going after medicine now.
People are living longer, and they're living longer because they've got money to be able to, I don't know, redo their joints and cover themselves in aspirin or whatever it is people do.
Cover themselves in aspirin.
Or whatever they do.
All right, okay.
They're taking a ibuprofen facial or whatever, and they're taking lots of drugs, and they're putting fake hips in, and they're having facelifts, and they're eating pudding, and they're living longer. That's who's to blame, mate. Don't look at me. Don't look at me as some sort of.
But here's my
choice.
here's
Now,
my argument.
Hang on a second.
All right.
I fully accept that our generation have sat by.
Yes, that's my point.
Hang on a second.
We have stood there doing nothing. We have read Batman comics
Right.
and pretended like that was enough. We have abdicated our responsibility to everything.
Right.
Because what we've learned
you know
is
what?
it's all pointless.
But you know
this
what?
is all a pointless waste of everyone's time.
is.
Please show me something brightly coloured
Yes.
with the word splat exclamation mark in it,
Right.
and that'll do me.
But I'll tell you what.
I'm born. I read brightly coloured things, and then I die, and
Yeah.
I'm all right with that.
I'm all right with that as well.
We are the first generation to look
Yeah.
up at the stars
And go,
and feel insignificant
right.
for a moment, and then not care,
And then not care.
and then not care. Go, well,
Right.
what can I do about that?
Well, but
We're
that's
quite
the thing.
practical,
Right.
but what that's led to is us basically going, all right, about everything,
About everything.
about every
Yeah.
horrible thing that's happened.
Right.
We have let it happen because we haven't got any better ideas.
No, we've let it happen by not voting.
Yeah.
But,
Shall I get a cheesesteak?
oh my goodness, your mind is just one synapse firing after another, like some sort of mad game of synapse pinball. Your brain is synapse pinball flapping from one ridiculous notion to
It is
another.
partially because I don't want to get into like a big thing here, but I do feel like it's partially because we were taught from a very young age by
Yeah.
movies
Yeah.
more than anything
Yeah.
that the most important
Don't
thing
come
is,
after my movies, mate. It's all I'm hanging on to.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying, right? We were taught that
You're hanging on to
the
Batman.
purpose of
I'm
life-
hanging on to movies.
The purpose of life is to try and enjoy it
Yeah.
wherever possible,
Yeah.
be kind,
Yeah.
and like that's about the best you can ask for.
Right.
So that's what we've done. But unfortunately,
I
that
think
means that total bastards
Yeah.
well, if you're not going to do anything, I guess I'll run the show.
Well, no,
and now they run the show.
Can I point something else out though?
Yes.
So,
This movie's made us think very deeply.
it has. Well, no, it hasn't.
No,
really.
no,
It's
because-
just that I don't feel like we have much to say about the film because
No,
it's
no,
really
I know.
nice, it's really pleasant, and I don't really
No,
have
no,
much
no.
to say.
But I think we do. I think the point is that looking at a film,
Right.
this is what I liked about it. Looking at a film that represents being young.
Booksmart, by the way. Booksmart.
Booksmart. Watching a movie that represents being young in a believable, realistic way, but more
Yes.
importantly, in a narratively unconventional way. In other words, we haven't seen. This is not a film we've seen a billion times before. There's beats in it and echoes for sure, right? But I felt it reminded me more of what it was like being young than it did of other movies.
Huh, really?
Yeah, and I think that's why we've come out of it in a kind of a reflective, happy, positive, but reflective, and also for the first time feeling a little bit of distance from the people that were in that film. I don't feel like that their experience of being young is the same as mine. It is subtly different.
Right.
And it's not about bullies and academic achievement or
jobs
stuff
or
like
whatever,
that.
right.
It's just like that's the message of the film. It's just like in Zero Effect, right? It's not good guys and
Bad guys,
evil
it's just
guys.
guys.
It's just a bunch
Well,
of
I
guys.
think, no. All right, I mean, we'll get into the film in a minute.
Yeah, all
but
right. But I think we do have things to say. And I think that's why we're talking about these things.
No, but I think this, and I've said this before. We, when we were in our 20s, right? When we were at the point where we could possibly be politicized, the likes of the media and social media and everything else didn't bring the harshness and hideousness of politics into our life on an hourly, minute-by-minute basis. That's the first thing, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So the reason why
We were relatively isolated.
the reason why the younger generation now is so politicized is because that is what they're bombarded with. And it's a good thing because it means that they can rise up and march and change things and da-da-da-da-da. And there's certainly been those situations in the past in the 60s and 70s or whatever. But when we were growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, what was there really to complain about? In the grand scheme of things.
In our lives as we understood them to be.
Right.
One more minute?
No, I'm done now.
Okay.
Thank you.
What do we have?
Can I have the Philly cheesesteak
Okay.
with beef?
Beef. Okay. Mushrooms, peppers, everything's okay?
Yep, the whole thing will be lovely.
Okay.
I don't need the. No, I'll take the fries. If the fries are coming, I'll have the.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
I will have a bacon cheeseburger, but can I have that as a bison burger, please?
Yes. American cheese okay, hon?
Swiss if you have it. If not American, it's fine. And I will have that deluxe.
Okay. And how would you like the burger to be cooked?
Medium, please.
Medium. Bacon Swiss bison medium deluxe. Okay. Anything I drink besides water?
Yeah, can I get an English breakfast tea
English breakfast.
with milk,
Got it.
please?
For you, hon?
No, I'm good.
Water's
Thank you
good?
so much.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Have a
Thank you.
good.
Cheers.
Everyone's so lovely.
See, that's what I mean. I do
People are
feel like we're
lovely.
being bathed in.
In loveliness. But let me finish. So this is what I think about our generation, right? We are both technically, statistically, and demographically a middle generation, and
A bridge.
and a bridge generation, and definitely a lost generation. And I'll explain why. We're not Generation X, and we're not millennials. We are in between. Most millennials are defined by marketing departments as people who predominantly grew up in a digital world. And while they may have been born in the late 80s, early 90s, while analog was still king, predominantly by the time they came of age, there was a digital world around them.
Right.
We, on the other hand, I was damn near 18 before any kind of knowledge of what the internet was outside of email came into my head. Post that, we kind of evolved with it. So we did adopt it. The thing they say, I think they call us Zennials, which is a horrible name, but it's basically a little generation that exists between the people who were born in the early 70s and the people who were born in the mid 80s. There's this little 10-year gap where they grew up without technology, so they knew the analog world, they knew the way it worked, but then they adopted technology once it came upon them. but at the same time, they have like a healthy skepticism towards it as well. Whereas millennials have sort of taken it on wholesale, right? So we're a middle generation in terms of technical development and advancement. We're a middle generation in terms of the fact that the older generation, who should have at this point retired, moved on, and allowed us to take over middle management, upper management, CEO status, whatever, are living longer and working longer and wanting to have their money more. So there isn't a transfer of power in the way that there used to be. It used to be when people were retiring at 60, 65,
And we're too
70.
lazy to take it.
Right. It's not just that. It just seems, first of all, it was never, as a generation, it was never our desire to necessarily take it. But secondly,
rule the world.
It also feels sort of pointlessly insurmountable. Not that we don't want to make the effort, but we kind of think about the long game of it, and we're just like, all right, I'll just keep slubbing by. Like, what's the point? Like you say, we've looked up at the stars, we feel insignificant, we've gone, well, let's just have a jolly old time of it, and da-da-da-da. But that doesn't mean we're not political. We have progressive views, most of us, and...
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
and we want things to change. But because we were...
Can't be asked to change.
No, but because we were raised in the shadow of the 60s, and our parents had gone through it, we can't believe who our parents have now become, or our parents' generation has now become. We're kind of like, well, wait a minute, didn't you solve all this shit? You didn't. Oh wait, we have to deal with your generation again, now being horribly right-wing as you get older, because you, I don't know, want more pie than everyone else, or whatever it is. So we're just annoyed either way. And then here come millennials with their fucking, I don't know, eye faces and Google hair or whatever, and we're just, oh, you're irritating as well. And we're just stuck in the middle going, well, fuck it. We're going to have movies and comic books and diners, and we're going to enjoy what's left of the old world while kind of accepting the new world.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I guess I'm trying to enjoy what's left of the old world while accepting that the new world is going to run me over.
Well, because...
Look, here's the thing. Wait.
One last point. One last point. Because really just one last point, and I'll do it in a sentence. To fight the past, meaning the older generation, and like take over power, seems ridiculous because the younger generation is nipping at our heels, and to turn around and like stop them from nipping at our heels while we try and like maintain some level of power seems like Moses trying to hold the waves back. Like, it just seems almost ridiculous, because either generation, either side of us, seems to have a far more active interest in like running things than we do. So we just kind of go, all right, we'll let you bicker over here about whatever, and we'll let you guys, like, I don't know, whatever, take all our tax money, and we'll just kind of, as long as I can have a burger in a diner with an old friend, I'll deal with it.
So you're saying like all the Twitter fights are happening like over our heads?
Yeah.
We're like crouching in the bunker of...
well, we're watching, I mean, I don't know about you.
We're crouching in the bunker of Arrested Development.
Yeah.
While people far too sure of themselves for any kind of good sense hold tightly onto things that are bad for everybody because of some notion of personal freedom, while another generation
thinks that they can legitimately change things, but they can't.
Tries to wrestle the, the cricket bat of history out of their hands with some idea that they will be able to wield it with more justice.
Yeah, and generosity.
But instead, all they're doing is hitting themselves in the face repeatedly with a cricket bat.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. But then, okay, so...
Sorry, say what you were going to say before you...
No, I guess what it... Like, when you see... With this movie, for example, right?
Booksmart.
When you see this movie, you realise that the message of the movie is essentially like you can work hard and like improve yourself, as it were, and expand your mind and learn things and be a fully paid up member of the human race and all of the good things that can bring, while at the same time also experiencing the hedonistic aspects of just being a bit of a teenage tearaway, right? No, wait, hang on. So what I was trying to say is, right?
Jesus Christ.
What?
No.
You talked for literally 20 minutes, and then I had 45 seconds. So you went, that's enough of that, which is fine, because I don't blame you, because I think it probably is enough of that. And I guess all I'm saying is that with that particular movie, it makes me feel like I think we did what we felt was right. I think and I just, talking about you and me and people who are like us, it's not necessarily a whole
But we never
generation.
hurt anyone, mate. We never went out of our way to hurt anyone.
No, but here's the point, right? Without wishing to get too deeply into it.
That makes me sleep at night. I didn't go out of my way to hurt anybody.
No, we didn't.
My footprint on the planet is not disastrous.
No, it's true. We don't need to go into the, culpability for things beyond our control. But we accepted the cheap clothes and the, and the.
But we had no other choice. They're not paying us any money.
I know.
They were paying us.
I'm just saying.
Like they
what
got paid.
this movie makes me realise, is that I have spent an awful lot of my life, right? Trying to enjoy it as much as I can.
Yes.
Trying to do good things, trying to create good things. But ultimately, the more important thing for me was to enjoy and appreciate the life that I had.
Yeah.
And I can't help feeling a little bit that I could have done it a bit better. Not my life, but I could have been a bit more focused. Like, actually, if I was to go back and ruthlessly examine, like, my time,
Right.
You know what I mean? A huge proportion of my time on planet Earth was spent doing nothing, but not in a I'm enjoying my life kind of a way, and not in a diner burger thing, but literally just wasting hours, weeks, months, years of time, just kind of because I didn't really know what to do, you know what I mean? And I couldn't really be asked to think about, or maybe didn't have the courage is a bit strong, but the wherewithal, that's a good word, the wherewithal to really, take the time
Just
that
keep
I had
quoting tragically
and my
hip
brain,
songs.
right.
Courage, wherewithal, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Gordon Downey had the right idea,
Right,
basically.
but to take all to take my brain and my time and combine those two things together, I think I could have done better than I did. And I think that's what that film is about. I think it's supposed to be about, you don't have to take your time and your brain and use them for one thing. There is actually a lot of time and there's a lot of things to be experienced, and we do have the time to do all of them while at the same time enjoying it but not holding on too much to everything.
So let me just counteract some of what you just said very slightly, because I too, especially since living in the US, have looked back across to 20s, for example, and thought to myself, oh, what a bloody hell, I've wasted a whole bunch of stuff. But I tell you where that thought comes from. Not that people in the UK don't have thoughts like that. I'm sure they do. But there's something, and we've talked about this before, but there's something in America that's a very not only is there a lot of pressure and demands and people should be more like this and bada bing, bada
you better get a
boom,
job
make it
or you're
happen.
dead.
Exactly, right. But also, the better side of it, the better way to look at it, is that there is that get up and go spirit. There is a process, whether we like it or not, by which actually if you do apply, if you do work hard, if you do hustle, if you do keep, your finger in many pies or irons in many fires or whatever you want to say, that something can actually come from it. And sure, you need patience and you need graft and you need a whole bunch of stuff, but something can actually come from it. And actually, it's only recently I feel like in the last 10 years of living here, that I have learnt You spilled some chocolate there from your pretzel on your sweater.
Oh no!
Yeah, you got.
Well, it's quite a lot of chocolate on my sweater.
Yeah, it's from a pretzel.
God, I'm such a.
I think you got pretzel. I'm checking my
I'm such
shirt.
a Gen Wire.
I'm checking my shirt now to see if I have pretzel chocolate. I don't have any pretzel chocolate. It's just you. You're a messy pup. No, sorry. I feel like each year living here, certainly in the last 5 years, which have really defined my time living here, the 5 years that I both went through what I went through and then met Kim and everything else.
Right.
In that 5 years, it's not just a case of, and this is what I didn't understand before, it wasn't just a case of having to like, I thought when I came to America, you have to just accept the way it is, and you have to like somehow, get the manual, get the rule book, figure it out, or you're dead in the water.
Right.
And it's not so much about putting all that pressure on you. It's about over time seeing the pieces slowly slot into place. Thank you so much.
Wow, that looks good.
The Philly cheese.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any mayo, mustard, hot sauce, please?
I'm all right, I think.
I'm good with ketchup. Thank you so much.
Okay, enjoy.
Thank you very much. Chips look amazing.
For example, and I won't go into details, but a few of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks in particular, I've known now through just sheer experience of the last 10 years
Right.
how to go with that, how to present myself, what to say, what's important, what isn't important, etc., etc. These are not things in England that we grew up being taught. We weren't even shown it. Like, it was literally, well, become an accountant, or maybe go to school for 7 years and go become a doctor or a lawyer. But like in general, the pathway to creativity or to a more interesting job or a more interesting lifestyle or whatever it was either not very clear because there wasn't ever
Yeah, that's probably fair.
there wasn't ever a social conscience that said, move forward, make it work, hustle, get it done. Like, there was not that thing.
Well, it was in adverts, and we thought it was bollocks.
We thought it was bollocks. There also just isn't that kind of national consciousness in the same way. But secondly, it's really taken me a long, long time to see the 3 or 4 steps ahead. But why I feel that, yes, while I can spend the rest of my life being, enjoying this and being relatively comfortable and relatively happy, but never, a captain of industry or anything, more's the pity. I see the pieces now, I see where to go now, I see how to do it. I'm inclined to still do it, which is nice. It's nice to be kind of 40-ish and still feel like I can light a fire under myself if I need to, which is nice. That's a good place to be in. I feel better equipped for it, and I feel even better equipped to handle any rejection that may come from it. Because how many times have I been down a path where like shit hasn't worked out and I've gone, all right, next one, like I'm good. So that's what I feel about, like, I think that there's a lot of mitigating circumstances as to why we find ourselves a little bit on a precipice and not really knowing what we're doing, and while also looking back at our 20s being like, fuck, I wasted a lot of time. But you shouldn't feel bad about that at all, because it wasn't wasted, because it got you here, because everything you did led to...
No, I agree. I just
blah,
mean...
blah, 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 blah.
The After Movie Diner with Jon Cross will return right after this.
That's right, it will return, and it will return forthwith. However, we must play an advert at this stage. I apologize, but we need to pay for this thing, and we just had to drop $200 on renewing the website and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we do need to pay for it, thus the advert which we're about to play. However, if you would like to hear a advert or promo for something you do, writing, podcasting, making films, making music, whatever it is, read out here at this point in the show, then all you have to do is go over to Patreon, patreon.com/ After Movie Diner and donate $3 to the podcast to become a $3 sponsor of the podcast, and I will read out any promo, advertisement, or anything that you want in the spot on the show. So go do that over at patreon.com/After Movie Diner.
You're listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, Jon Cross.
We watch movies for a number of different reasons, right? And sometimes we watch them just because they're fun, right? Like, you know, The Warriors or whatever, right? They're just fun, well-made, good movies, and we enjoy them.
I got cheese in my beard.
You've got cheese in your beard, and that's going to be an image that's going to stick with me.
I got stringy, melty cheese in my beard.
And sometimes...
Probably look like a jacket.
And sometimes you watch a movie...
Yeah.
And it makes you think about, not like in a big deep, oh my god, I have to change my life way, but I guess what I'm saying is, you reach a certain point in your life, right, where I am now, where there's not that many things that make me stop and look at my life and how I live it and what the hell's going on.
Probably a good thing considering your life.
Right, exactly. But
I'm kidding.
I know, but that's what the movie did. And more than that, right? I've been convinced for a while that the whole proliferation of screenwriting courses and screenwriting handbooks and all that is absolute bollocks. Mm-hmm. Because it's, you know, you've got to introduce a character here, and then at this point in the movie, this needs to happen, and then at the end of Act 1, this needs, and then, you know, your actor definitely needs to do this particular thing in order to gain all this, like, there's fucking rules. And you're like, well, hang on, right? I realise that you've looked at all these great movies, and you've identified, like, patterns and rhythms and whatever. Great, bully for you. But once you just take all that structure out of those things and lay it out on a fucking table, and then you plug in, right, he's a cowboy, you know, she's a spaceman, let's fucking, you know, let's go. And then just churn out all this stuff.
Right.
And it's all, you know, and it's completely devoid of, well, not devoid.
How is she a spaceman? Is that a comment on the fact that in space there's no gender?
Yeah. Yes, that was my point.
She's a non-binary,
Right.
trans, whatever, space person,
Yeah.
or space thing.
What? All right. Whatever. The point I'm trying to make is that the other thing that I really, really liked about this movie, as opposed to other movies that we've seen, is that there was none of that. I kept expecting, like, oh yeah, sooner or later someone's going to get their comeuppance. That character's going to, you know, whatever. But like expecting the beats, and instead it kept going, and they didn't get bullied, and they didn't get downhearted. The only time in the movie where they had like a thing, conflict was all real. It wasn't like they had a conflict because somebody wanted to do something bullshitty. You know what I mean? It was because the only thing that went wrong at that's why it reminded me of being young, right? I didn't go to a lot of parties because I didn't really like parties, but there were some that I went to when I was about that age, a little bit younger, where they were I had the most amazing time. I had them with people that I never hung out with up to that point, and never again afterwards. But they were just like endless, you know, these parties and these nights. And
endless night.
Yeah, all right.
Jim's endless night.
So my point is that the only thing that was ever disappointing in nights like that was when somebody you liked that was at the party turned out to like somebody else. It was the most heartbreaking thing that could happen to you. It wasn't getting bullied by the guy or losing the term paper that you needed to get to them, whatever the fucking MacGuffin is in those movies, right? None of that bollocks. Like, someone that you like somebody else.
None of that. None of the other thing.
And that was the most heart-wrenching, gutting thing you could possibly imagine at that age.
Right.
And that was the most disappointing. That's the only thing in the movie that didn't go right for them. Because all they did was set out just to experience things. That's all that happened in the movie. They set out to have experiences, and that's what they do. So every time they do literally anything in the movie, it's rewarding for them because it's another experience and not just sitting in their house, right? Which also kind of resonates, right? When you get to a point where like, oh, I think I'll just put my feet up and watch telly instead of like fucking doing something. Which I suspect.
We should maybe preface this with what the story was about.
Well, that's it, really. It's two girls.
It's two girls at high school.
Two girls at high school.
The night before graduation.
Night before graduation. and they realise, well, the main, one of the two main characters realises that she spent her whole school career studying like crazy, kicking ass, because she thinks they're all pissing their lives away because they're not studying hard. And she realises on the final day that everybody that she's been mocking for being stupid and idiotic is going to Stanford or Yale or Harvard. They all got in, while at the same time clearly having a blast. And she suddenly has this epiphany that they've been doing it all wrong. Instead of studying like crazy the whole time, they should have been doing both. They could have had it all like everyone else did. So they decide to go to this one party, and in the process of going to this party, where it turns out that one of the girls likes somebody and the other girl likes someone else, in the process of going to the party, they just have this night, and it's not even like a legendary night of whatever. They just have experiences, and every single one makes them happy, and they're laughing, and it's relentlessly positive, and they're really, they love each other, and they say nice things to each other. It's just a whole different way of being. That's not. It was true without necessarily ringing true for me.
Right.
But that whole.
Yeah, I mean it has.
This Philadelphia cheesesteak is amazing, by the way. I highly recommend getting it next time.
It has vibes of Say Anything meets Superbad, without the coarseness of Superbad. Although there are moments, but without the laddish idiocies of Superbad, and without the central romance of Say Anything. But it has a very Say Anything-y vibe.
So far, so good, boys.
Everything
Lovely,
is
thank you very
delicious.
much.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad it was reborn. But it has a very Say Anything vibe, especially like the middle bit of Say Anything when he's a bit down, like I gave her my heart and she gave me a pen. That whole area where he's driving around to like the gas and sip or whatever. Like that, it has that kind of vibe in a way that I love. Like I love that bit in Say Anything, and it has, the little wafts of John Hughes stuff here and there, and so on and so forth. However, my favorite thing about the film, especially as we've had this conversation, it's directed by Olivia Wilde.
Who knowing her from House and the OC, I didn't necessarily think she had this in her.
Oh no, she's done a lot more than that, dude. She's done a whole bunch of like indie movies and.
No, I know, but that's all I know her from.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure what to expect.
Right. So, what I like about it, and what I've actually sat here, listening to you, but also thinking about the conversation you and I had when we came out of it, especially about our generation, right, and where our generation lands. What I really like about this film, because I think, like I'm right? Olivia Wilde is like squarely kind of in our generation, right? She's like late 30s, is she?
I would think so. I mean, she was okay. She's like. Yeah, probably, because I'm thinking like when she was in the OC.
I mean,
she would have been like
40s, so.
Yeah, she would have been like 4 or 5 years younger than me when I was watching the OC and she was in the OC. So yeah.
What I thought was really good about this movie, post our conversation, is that I actually feel that it's a movie about our generation saying to the millennial, digital, woke, younger generation, whatever you want to call it, all your ideals and your icons and your positive affirmation of everybody is all really good. Like, never lose that. That's like really fucking important. But there's more to life, and there's more to experiences, and there's more to the world than just that. You can like positively affirm your best friends, and you can work really hard at something, or you can, party really hard at something, or you can do sports or whatever it is. But the world is not as scary, first of all, as it has been made out to you. The world is not as dull, harsh, and horrible, and work hard, and all the rest of it, and pressureful as it's been made out to you. And there are good things to be done, and there is positivity to be had, and there is improvements to be made, and you guys can do it, but don't be so serious while doing it. It's kind of what I take from it. Because sometimes, and it's funny, and I don't know, I've not heard any interviews with her or anything like that about it, but it feels like the kind of thing I'd want to write. After spending a day on Twitter looking at 20-somethings screaming at each other, or screaming into the void, or screaming at the older generation, or just screaming in general, or whatever it is. Looking at the world around them that's presented to them by media and social media, which is, you know, fucking shootings and people trying to tell them what they can do with their bodies, and, you know, racial shit and sexist shit and all this bollocks that people are like throwing out every day. And there they are, kicking and screaming, thinking, fuck, the rest of my life is just kicking and screaming, what the fuck? And I think it's the kind of thing, because it felt very nurturing, like the movie felt towards the two main characters.
Yeah.
Very nurturing, but like the Olivia Wilde's love of these characters comes through in the way that the story is told.
Yeah.
And not just the love of them, but the love that the guy doesn't turn out to be a bully, and these people don't turn out to be idiots, and this woman doesn't turn out to be... Like, everyone has a positive slant. There's like the crazy woman that everyone assumes is on drugs and all drunk all the time, who hangs out with the other guy. And those two are like super rich, so they're kind of ignored because they're essentially acting out with their money in the way that teens like rebel or whatever. But not only has the dude obviously got like some really like soulful things that he wants to do with his life, and, you know, nobody really knows me and da-da-da, sort of a Breakfast Club moment, but also he imbues that woman who's throughout the movie, the crazy girl who's always wearing like the military cap and is at every party and da-da-da-da, who's by far the funniest thing in the film. She's amazing.
Yeah.
He imbues her with like humanity and loyalty and, you know, all this stuff. And that's super lovely and super charming and super ingratiating. And it felt like, we know you've got this, but we've got you too. Like our generation will kind of look after you as well and guide you into, maybe our job is not to take power, but maybe our job is to guide you in the younger generation into taking power.
I like that. That's nice. That's very nice. And there's some things you said too that I think are true that I hadn't thought about before. That idea of the you don't have to do everything message is actually about don't be worried about everything all the time. You know?
No, you'll burn out.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but I think that's true.
You can't tilt at windmills every fucking day.
No, I like that. And you're right, she is our generation. So that makes sense. And I think you're right. I think that it's a positive message. And I don't know, I mean, obviously it's a bit like Parks and Recreation. It's a bit fuzzy around the edges, obviously. Not everybody can get into Harvard. You know what I mean? Like literally everybody she's talking to is, well, this is just one high school in one town, you know, in one country. Not everybody can be like a fucking winner. And I do feel like that's one problem I have with America. It's like not everybody can be a fucking winner.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like they're called the 1% for a reason. It's not like the 50% and the 50%. It's
right.
like, you know. But it's a fucking movie. And it's about, you know, when I was watching, I was thinking, if I was, you know, a teenager and I saw this movie, I can see that this would be like my favourite movie of all time.
Right.
You know? Oh, he's really loud.
He's really loud talking on his phone.
Yeah.
I kind of want to wait till he's done.
Yeah.
I agree with you on the, you know, it takes a little bit from the idea that sort of, you know, everyone's wonderful and everyone's precious and everyone whatever. But I don't.
But it's about a message, isn't it? It's, any movie, any work of fiction, it's about What's its message? What's it telling you? What do you remember? What do you take away from it? And the point is, everybody you look at, this is the thing I think the message is. It drives me crazy about just people in real life in general. Everybody you meet could be, regardless of what they look like or how they first appear to you, a potential Harvard scholar and all-around wonderful person.
Right.
You don't know. So you may as well treat everybody as if they're fucking smart,
Right.
fucking cool.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you?
Right.
Because if they're not, that's okay. You can move on to the next thing. It's no fucking skin off your nose. But the worst thing you can do is treat somebody who might end up being your best friend, who you will change the world with, as a fucking idiot because of how they dress or because they, like
Right.
a drink. You know what I mean? So it's like, what is a movie? That's what I liked about the music too. It's like it wasn't like I watched Bad Times at the El Royale the other night, right? Which is pretty good. But it was like the music was like, all right, we get with the fucking music. Like, we've got to have cool music over fucking everything. But in this one, it felt more like this is their life as they experience it. It's punctuated by short little snippets. It doesn't feel like staged or cinematic. It feels like, oh, this would be what they're listening to when they're in a car or when they're walking along. Or
Right.
this is how they feel. It was playing on their heads. It felt natural.
Right.
It had like, it wasn't like, it wasn't like a French New Wave move, like this is what school's really like now. Do you know what I mean? It was like, this is a fucking movie. This is a movie for teenagers now. And this is what I want to talk to them about. And this is how I want them to, how I want everybody to feel about everybody all the time.
Right.
And like that, so to set it up as a movie and to make it a movie and to make it funny as well. I mean, it was funny.
Right.
Then
Plus,
how
by
can you
the
not
way,
love it? You know?
there are 101 movies about, like, someone is bullied relentlessly and then triumphs at the end or whatever it is.
All right.
But what I've liked recently, and I know there was that one you didn't like very much with the girl dying of cancer or whatever it was. The guy who's the best friend of the girl dying with cancer, you didn't like that one.
Guy who's the best friend of going on with cancer?
There's been a lot of teen movies in this vein. I mean, this is by far the best one, but there's been a...
Oh no, I like that. You mean the John Green stuff, the Fault in Our Stars or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I like Fault in Our Stars.
Oh, okay. So there's that one. There was Love, Simon, about
Which I didn't see.
the gay guy at high school, which I actually really liked. That was another good one. There's this, and there's been a couple of others, but I mean, I don't watch every teen film, but I feel that they're all coming, all of these movies are coming from a very good place. They're all trying to spread a decent message, but they're all doing it in their own voice and without too many cliches or without too many like tropes, but with enough of a nod to the past that old bastards like us can kind of go in and know where we are with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but you're right. It does feel like these are the movies that will be remembered. That was very nice, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
A little
fine,
bit more
Dylan.
hot water for the tea?
No, I'm all right. Thank you very much. Thank you. The people growing up at this time aren't going to remember fucking Mortal Engines or Alita Battle Angel, but they'll remember Love, Simon and Booksmart and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are the things that in 20 years, these will be the movies of this generation.
this
Not
will
all
be
that, not all that
the
fucking
the Pretty
bollocks.
in Pink and the Breakfast
Yeah.
Club.
You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that connects to people.
Right.
Not all that fucking bollocks, you know. So that feels good, and I wish we had a chance to. And that was, one of the reasons why this movie was in the news, right? Because it was like, well, how come more? It didn't make very much money, versus I don't know, whatever piece of crap was out. It's like, but that doesn't matter. It's still it's been out for 3 weeks in New York, and we saw it in the cinema next to Penn Station with a crazy old man eating a burrito.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get much more multiplex than watching it next to Penn Station 3 weeks after its release, while a crazy old man eats a smelly burrito. Like, you've made it.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing
And it was
okay.
packed. It was still busy.
Yeah, it was still busy.
And in fact, the 6:30 screening we were going to go to at Kips Bay was sold out.
Yeah. So, see, the thing is, like, if it's new, like this is, like, we've seen some things where it's like, take an old script, put some female characters in it, right? And this could have been that, like, with Superbad, but it wasn't.
And I'm
totally,
sure someone somewhere has called it like
but-
the female Superbad.
Right, but the truth is, it's like, yeah, it's the female Superbad in the sense that it's like the story of two teenagers trying to figure out what their lives are. But it's not just that the lead characters are changed, but the beats are the same. It's just a whole different way of looking at it. And if you're not going to do it new, that's the problem with the bad times at the El Royale, right? Which was not bad at all and was actually like pretty good.
It was all right.
It was okay, but
It was, yeah.
But it was a rehash of a lot of stuff. It didn't really fit together.
Right, and I didn't really understand, like, why it was made or
No. Well, it's
how it got made or
no.
why.
I'm inclined to agree, but I guess.
Or why it attracted the audience that it, the cast that it attracted.
Well, okay. The reason I think it got the cast it did is that if you're in like a Marvel movie or whatever, you can do whatever the fuck you want. It's your fucking life. They paid you so much money. At a certain point in the Marvel universe, they'll pay you so much money. You can work whatever you want again. And there's not that many interesting films knocking around.
Right.
You know? So you can do what you like. But I guess what I'm saying is that film is like you had money and you had a cast, it had a great set, and you didn't say anything new with it. It wasn't bad, it was quite fun, and Jeff Bridges was really good in it. And we've got to a fucked up point in our technology that when the bellhop guy is Bill Pullman's son.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when he first appeared, he looked exactly like Bill Pullman, like exactly. He like put a jacket on. I thought, and instead of thinking, as I would have done 20 years ago, oh, I wonder if like this guy's related to Bill Pullman, which he was. Instead, I thought, have they used the anti-aging technology on Bill Pullman to create this character? Like, what the fuck, man? That should not be my go-to explanation for why somebody reminds me of Bill Pullman.
That's
anyway,
weird. That's weird that
you know what I mean?
did that. Yeah, that's weird.
But then my brain.
Your brain. Yeah.
But I guess my point is that I'm watching Bad Times at the Army. This had the potential to be new and interesting and whatever, but it wasn't, and this was. And
So
it's not easy to do that.
Here's another thing that I'll say. I had a younger stepsister. When my dad remarried, my stepmom had a much younger daughter, and so I was in a very interesting position when I went and lived back with my dad at 15.
Right.
Of seeing him raising another kid again. And I remember she was...
With a slightly critical eye,
heavily critical. But she was 7 or 8 at the time or whatever, and he was going through like her books, whether it was... there was a book that... what was the large lady in the UK that always used to talk about sex on morning television?
Oh, fuck.
Claire
Rayner.
Pull
that out my ass.
So there was a book that Claire Rayner had written about like discovering your body and sexuality for like children. Right. And I remember vividly my dad taking umbrage with so many things in the book. Primarily like some of, and even I would agree with this, is like some of the very childish names and kind of slightly, Christian fluffy names that she gave to parts of the body that already had names and didn't need to be called, the baby making hole or whatever it was called.
Right.
Because that departs all sorts of, wrong messages to young girls. It's just for babies. But also, I remember it was an inclusive book that the drawings in it, the illustrations in it, were, multiracial, multi-gender, whatever it was, right? And there were multiple books that, because Nia, my stepsister, was sort of 7 or 8 when would she have been? About 7 or 8. She would have been 7 or 8 when sort of mid-90s, right? Okay. So post the first wave of like political correctness, but certainly at a point where we were taking our first, very public steps into being more inclusive as people. And it's weird to think that didn't really happen till the 90s, but it really didn't happen much till the 90s.
Right.
And I remember my dad looking at it and going, well, it's just stupid, isn't it? What is it? Every book we read now has to have one of everybody in it. Like, I remember that being his attitude. which says horrible things. He doesn't really mean it that way, but the way he was.
I know, like
voicing
what?
it was-
Forcing it down my throat.
Yeah, no, but him being like, well, it's just stupid. You don't go into a room and there's one of everybody. You know, why is there in this book? I'm like, I don't know, maybe so that the book appeals to everybody. Like, but he had that thing. I'm going somewhere with it.
Right.
What I'm saying is there was a time where, and it still happens sometimes, but there was a time when certain representations of different ethnicities or different genders or different sexual persuasions was seen very much as a well, of course, one of the characters has to be gay, doesn't it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was that thing where
it seemed phony.
it seemed phony, right? And even with the best will in the world, with the a more liberal attitude that you and I may have, there were still some things that were made in the early days of sort of the PC whatever, that you're a bit like, oh, come off it. You know what I mean? Does everyone have to have a thing? And it doesn't necessarily mean, thank you, it doesn't necessarily mean sort of race and gender and sexuality, but like very often they'd be like, oh, someone had to have an ailment, someone had to have a thing, like it was very much that thing. And it would come across as forced or phony. And what I've liked about the recent wave of things I've seen, whether it's some of the stuff I've seen on Netflix, whether it's movies that are made by women or by people of different races, or movies like this one, Booksmart, it doesn't feel alarming. It feels completely, well, not alarming, that sounds bad, but it doesn't
Feel phony.
doesn't stick out anymore. It feels it doesn't need to be telegraphed, and the gay relationship in this and the racism.
You're right.
in this,
It's not like
there was no call out to it. There was one line where the guy was like, "Have you ever been with a Mexican?" And that was about it. There was no other hint at any other racial thing, and there was no either telegraphing issues or conflicts born out of the fact that one of the characters was gay. It was just, she's gay in the same way, and that's how it should be. I'm applauding it for that. Like, that's how the world is. That's how people should interact with it. It shouldn't be separated out. It shouldn't be segregated. It shouldn't be a different class or a different make of person. You're not talking about fucking cars. It's not like, well, you know, this one's a hybrid and that one's a diesel and that one's a, you know, Volvo, whatever. It's you know,
I'm losing you on the metaphor there, mate.
meaning all people are all people.
Right.
And they all have the same. The conflicts, this is it. In the past, the conflicts would be born out of whatever the writer thought made them different.
Right.
In this film, the conflicts are not born out of any of the character traits that the characters have outside of their own humanity.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
That's my point.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
no,
said
that's
it-
good,
I
because
said it in
even
a
the
long,
argument-
waffly way, but I meant
Because the big central argument that we referred to earlier, one of the reasons that works so well is that, in fact, by the way, that was the best bit. I mean, it was really well directed.
Really well
Let's put it right. It looked great, but there was a bit when they're having the argument and they're yelling at each other, and they have every reason to be mad at each other at that point. She's got every reason to be mad with her friend because of what she knows, and she's only trying to do a nice thing. And the other one's got every reason to be mad at her friend because she's dragging her away from a party where she thinks, you know, there's someone there that she likes because she's ducking out as she always does. And they refer to characteristics that are probably true,
Right.
and have probably pissed each other off about in the past. So it was all real, but it was all stuff that they didn't have to like have some grand gesture to make up for it. They said they were sorry, and that was it.
Right.
And they knew they felt like that about each other. It doesn't really make any difference.
Right.
But there was, in that argument, they stopped. They did a bit where there's like music. The music came up, and I noticed she started moving the camera, and instead of the camera focusing on the person like in the argument talking, the camera is focusing slightly on the person hearing these things, and the argument became much more about what's painful about this argument. It's not what's being said. It's about how it feels to hear these things.
Yeah.
How it feels to hear your friend say these things to you and how they're true and how all you're thinking about is how angry you are with them.
Yeah.
And how, it was all in their faces. And that's why like the dialogue cut out like halfway through, it just kind of faded down. There was music and it was just them reacting to these things that were being said to them. And it was like those arguments. You don't hear anymore what someone's saying to you. You only know that it's really hurting you. That hearing these things is painful. And it was like, and I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I don't know, maybe somebody French did it in the 60s. I don't fucking know. I'm sure it's been done a billion times. But watching it, I thought I've never seen that before.
No, it was really cleverly done.
Where
It was really clever.
It wasn't like I'm being so clever here. It was just like, it felt like the movie was, which it also did really well all the way through, actually, now I think about it. It followed the mood of its own making.
Yeah.
Like it created a mood and then the movie followed it. So it wasn't like, it wasn't jarring. You didn't feel manipulated. You didn't feel like guided through it. You just felt like it was happening.
Right. And in fact, nothing in the movie was, well, look at me and how so-and-so I'm being.
Right.
There wasn't like a look at us and see how feminist or positive we're being. There
No.
wasn't a look how quirky and eccentric I'm being. There wasn't a what. There were certain characters that were femme positive. There were certain characters that were quirky and eccentric. But like, they fit the world perfectly. And at no point, like I say, at no point were the issues or the conflicts driven home because any of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. If anything, it tried to find something positive and wonderful about all of those people.
Yeah. Yeah, the only person it slightly took the mickey out of was the principal. That was it.
Right.
He was the only one that they felt like, and even then it was more like, that's a bit sad.
Yeah.
You know, and it was an acknowledgement of like, there's a generation out there that is a high school principal and has to drive an Uber and is trying to write a book.
Yeah.
You know, and you can tell it, the female detective pregnant thing is like, you're trying, you know, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's like, in many ways,
You felt a bit Sudeikis.
I
at
felt
that
like
point.
Sudeikis, because I feel like I'm exactly the kind of person that would write the pregnant female detective story, do you know what I mean? Like,
No, I think you'd have slight more...
no, true, but I mean that idea of like, you're trying, I get it, but it's just, it's not your story, mate.
And nobody
you know?
needs it.
No,
Yeah.
we don't need it. And I
like,
sometimes
I don't know what happens
in
when
my
the-
in my clearest
baby-
moments,
Yeah.
right, about my own contribution to the world of art. In my clearest moments, I think I don't think people really need this.
Well, because
It's not that it's not good.
Right.
It's just I think we can live without it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not in a bad way. Just we'll get by.
Right.
This isn't going to change anything. It's not anything that hasn't been done before. There's all these voices out there. There's all these people out there.
What's missing is sort of the silly and surreal stuff that we grew up with.
I just think that no, I agree with you, but I think
And in turn, no,
the time will come again.
But you're saying right now, right?
Yeah.
And I feel this way a bit about my music, is that nobody needs another,
Right.
40-year-old male guy singing about whatever, whether it's Americana, whether it's love and loss, whether it's movies or whatever. Like all the stuff we sing about, there's plenty of other people singing about it, right? Almost in exactly the same style as I am. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it. I like doing it, but
Yeah.
whatever. I do personally think that your poetry voice is far more unique and definitely needed and definitely different.
Well, that's very- I'm not
but
sure
it's
that's
it's an art form that's very hard to sell. That's the problem, right? So if you were
Not a lot of Benjamins in the poetry,
right.
mate.
Now, if you were combining that with, let's say, a musical sound that, not that people hadn't heard before, because kind of everything's been heard, but that was different to the music that we inevitably make. If it was something different, if it was if it was like the first Mumford & Sons album, or the first Beta Band album, or the first, like one of those bands that, no, they're not necessarily going to like spend the rest of their years being the Stones or Springsteen, but they're going to put that one album out there. The first 3 albums Radiohead did, whatever it is, like they're going to put those albums out there where you're like, okay, this is, yes, it's in a mode we understand, but it's also something new with that.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, yeah.
If you were doing that with your poetry as lyrics, I feel like there would be an avenue.
Yeah.
For it. I don't want to go into it. I'm just saying.
That's very wise. We should not go into it.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I understand your sentiment towards the poetry
Yeah.
as I feel it towards my music, as I also feel it to some extent about the fact that we do a movie podcast. It's like a billion movie podcasts. I think the one thing, in a weird way, even though, hand on my heart, I know it's derivative of Piper and Fry and Laurie and Not the 9 O'Clock News and Young Ones and Black Hat and all the stuff we grew up watching. I feel like the one thing I'm not seeing anywhere is the kind of comedy we grew up with. In the UK, comedy is all panel shows. It's all panel shows. All those people that would have been doing Mighty Boosh and all those people have ended up doing fucking panel shows, right? Which started with like Have I Got News for You and Never Mind the Buzzcocks, and now is literally every other show the BBC makes. And everything over here is satire, almost exclusively, with the occasional like, you know, Portlandia or you know, Stan versus Evil or whatever, like the occasional thing where you're like, yeah, that's cute, but it's very predictable as well. Like it's stuff that, you know. I'm sort of at a point where I'm waiting for the next Kids in the Hall, and they're not really out there.
Well, the closest,
and that's what I'm saying. That
well, the
one thing you and
weirdly,
I weirdly offer that no one else is offering right now is that.
Well, I would actually say that the things that I've been most impressed with in terms of comedy in America, it's all been animation stuff. I mean, I know most fans of Rick and Morty are arseholes, but it's still an incredible show. And have you ever seen BoJack Horseman?
Yeah, I did. The first couple of series are really good.
Yeah, I mean, I keep watching. I mean, it does get a bit more serious, but it's still really funny, but also like heartbreaking. And for like a show about a guy that used to be he's a horse. It's so weird,
right?
And yet it's like totally fine, and it feels new and like nothing I've ever seen.
It's weird in the sense. So it's weird in the sense that yes, it's a horse that it's a lot of anthropomorphic animals that are in Hollywood, and it's new in the way that it examines
it's mental illness, really. It's
right,
about
mental illness. But the setup is classic American sitcom. Now, the setup has to be classic American sitcom because they're trying to feed them stuff that's more complicated and difficult to deal with. But the humor, you don't come at it and go, this humor is completely unknown to me, or completely different to me, or completely weird to me, or uses words I've not heard.
Yeah, okay, no, I see what you're saying. I see. Yeah, it's more. It seems like American comedy is more about attitude. So Rick and Morty is an attitude, like a nihilistic attitude. And BoJack Horseman is like a realistic attitude to like how people are.
Don't get me wrong; those shows have pushed things leaps and bounds.
No, I see what you're saying.
But it's not that British style or that Canadian style or that Australian style.
I do know what you mean.
Silly for silly's sake.
I think it's because British TV prizes wit. It's not silly, like silliness, but also like Monty Python was silly, but it was witty as well. And I think that's what the panel show is about. It's about like they're just like who's the wittiest competitions. That's what they really fucking are.
Yeah, but what I was going around to say was I'm saying like if we have anything to offer in the things that we creatively do, it's maybe that. It's the only thing that's ever kind of always in my head. Is like,
yeah, okay, I see that.
The one thing I've always wanted is for someone to hear those sketches and go, oh wow, okay, yes, no, we need more of this.
Yeah, that's true, and I would like to help that. Yeah. I would like to help make that.
But I'm just saying, so that's. Ooh. But no, I'm.
Let's wrap it up because I think that was.
I may not include all that.
Yeah, but it was still, Can I just
Go
say,
see Booksmart or rent Booksmart when it comes out.
I really liked it, and I definitely wish we could see more. I'd rather see 1 million Booksmarts than one more Mortal Engines.
Yes.
And
by the way, I recently, because I've been on Letterboxd collecting my movies, what I watched, rating them and so on. I put together my tentative mid-year top 10. What I love about it is that the movies I'm really enjoying this year, or the TV shows I'm really enjoying this year, or that I'm really enjoying this year, are way more diverse than the films we've seen in previous years.
Yeah.
Not just in the stories. Like on my top 10, there's like a couple of documentaries. There's like a couple of like B-movie pulp things. There's a couple of like true life stuff. There's, you know, a comedy. There's an emotional. There's first of all, it's diverse in genre. But it's diverse in who's in them. Like almost all of them have prominent women, either in front of the scenes or behind the scenes, or both. And the fact that this will be added to it, this will be a 4-star added to my top 10 in the first half of the year. And again, directed by a woman, starring 2 women. The acting throughout is fantastic.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
And also the other thing that's common in a lot of my movie picks this year is not entirely, but a lot of new faces, new actors. There aren't a lot of stars, and if there are a few stars, it's something like a Sam Elliott, who's normally a character actor doing a leading turn in like Hit the Bigfoot, right?
Right.
I don't have a lot of movies on my list that is like the old guard. There's a lot of like new people, and in fact, this film and When They See Us, the Netflix series, which is incredible. It's just so well done. Even from a filmmaking standpoint, it's so well done. Highlight literally some of the best child, young adult, and teen acting I have ever seen. I mean, the performers in When They See Us, very similar to the performances in Booksmart. Out of this world. And some of the best acting I've seen this year. Dare I say, like the last 5 years.
Should we get the check?
Yeah.
We'll get the check.
Check.
Thank you very much.
Is there coffee or tea?
No, that'll be
Oh,
up
me
for
or
us.
tea. Okay.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
So, I know that there are a lot of people out there saying there needs to be more diversity, there needs to be more women, there needs to be more this. Keep banging that drum, because yes, definitely, we can always use more. Definitely 100%. I don't need to sit down and watch another story about a 40-something white guy for the rest of my life. I don't. I've seen them all.
I know
I've
what you
seen
mean.
them all. They've
Yeah.
been made, they've been done, and if I want to watch them, I can go back and watch them. I don't need to see those stories anymore. I'm hungry, actively hungry, for stories about someone who isn't me. And so far this year, I'm being able to see like a bunch of them, and it's really, and I'm not saying it because I'm like, going back to my previous point about representation, I'm not doing it because I'm like, I like this because a woman's in it.
Yeah.
Thank you. When you're ready, boys, we pay in the front.
Thank you so
thank you.
much. Thank you for your
Cheers.
service.
Cheers.
It's fantastic.
Sure. Thank you.
I'm enjoying the films, and they happen to happen. I'm not enjoying them because
No,
I'm enjoying
those are
them
because those are the
because
things
they're
out there that are
fresh, interesting.
Yeah,
stories.
those are the interesting things that are out there, that are available. You know, that's the truth of that.
Right. And
I agree. It's been even though I'm getting tired of the blockbusters,
right.
I'm not going to go and see Men in Black.
No, fuck no, fuck
You know,
no.
and-
Were we ever going?
No, but I'm just saying, like, it's like, it just reminded me, like, enough of the fucking franchises. But what was cool, right? And I noticed this. There's this thing at work, right? They have like a document in August of like the stuff we're showing on our channel, right? And they have like significant movie releases throughout the month. And
Right.
normally it's like, Avengers, fucking Star Wars, or whatever, right? Like Men in Black remake. You know, like I can look at it and I know, even though they're like new movies that are not out for a month,
Right.
exactly what they are.
Right.
Every single movie on this like coming out, I'm like, maybe I'd heard of it. I didn't know any of them. Didn't recognise any of the titles. And I remember thinking, brilliant.
Yeah.
If I don't know them,
Right.
then maybe I'm going to like them. Maybe it's something fucking new. It's not going to be another
Yeah.
fucking Men in Black
Yeah.
or whatever. You know, like that's not Fast and the Furious 26 or
But I have
whatever.
to say, as I've said before, 2019, certainly based on what I'm watching,
So far,
is
pretty good.
shaping up to be a bit of a corker.
I agree with you, mate.
That's not to say that there hasn't been some howling
You know, No, yeah. But when we're able to see something a little smaller, a little more interesting at the multiplex, then invariably it's usually pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Right?
And lastly, go over to aftermoviediner.com, where in the last 2 weeks, my goodness, what a flood of content.
A flood.
A flood of content.
Flood of content.
There's you and me talking Godzilla.
Yep.
There's me and Marcus talking Dead Don't Die.
Yep.
There is me writing about Avengement and John Wick and Headcount. Headcount, another horror movie made by a female director who is currently...
Who you interviewed, right?
Who I interviewed, Elle Callahan, who's currently making her second feature, Witch Hunt, as we speak.
Cool.
What else have we got? Got a couple of other things over there. Michael Campuchiaro wrote about Necropolis, which is a fun old 80s B movie.
It's probably a Hammer one coming soon. You've got a couple in the...
There's a Hammer one
in the
pipe.
What's the... pipe?
Pike. Coming down the pipe.
Is it pike?
It's
or
pike.
Pike.
Okay. Coming down the pipe. Or in the pipeline.
Pipeline.
Tons of stuff over there. So it's terrible doing this shit in a vacuum, so please do go take a look. When you're bored at work on your lunch hour, just, hey, what's happening over at the diner? Oh my goodness, look at all this content. Wow.
There's lots of it. Late night wasn't even that long ago.
Right?
Thanks for having me, mate.
It was a pleasure.
As always, son. Chin chin.
All right, and as that was recorded quite a while ago, there's actually a ton more over at the diner, including Angus McFadden, a great interview by our roving reporter Aaron Carruthers. He was the star of Braveheart and Cradle Will Rock and a whole bunch of other stuff, and he's got a new movie out, Robert the Bruce, which was causing a little outcry because Cineworld in the UK were not showing it. They now are, but there was a whole thing about it. Anyway, go check out our interview with Angus McFadden from Robert the Bruce over at aftermoviediner.com, as well as a whole ton of other stuff. So please do check that out. Anyway, to play us out, it's yet another demo from my forthcoming album. It's about time I recorded some of these songs properly, but I haven't got around to that yet. Life has been too busy. Anyway, enjoy this demo and look forward to future shows here on the After Movie Diner. Thank you. With nothing, just a minor offense. Oh, and how can we stir it, says the man on the fence. Push it out to the dogs who will shake it and tear it apart, and fill up the oceans with idle opinion, like plastic and rubber on once beautiful beaches. Just because it's there, you don't have to share it or take it to heart. Oh, just because it's there, you don't have to share it or take it to heart. Well, it's all to perpetuate and keep us in circles. Scrap the guts from the animal, slide under the hurdles. Someone somewhere wants the revenue. I mean, while you're saving and begging for shelter, the conversation leads nowhere, and the songs they aren't sung, and nobody's winning, at least of all you. Oh yeah, nobody's winning, at least of all you. And your bootstraps are frayed because everyone's pulling, and you claim you're self-made, but who are you fooling? And you're angry at others, but it's all the fault of your schooling, and no one's coming to the rescue, and no one's listening to reason, and there's nothing left to aspire
places, while the hairstyles and the suits practice their serious faces.